If you look at the design itself, I think this is more like in personal taste. It's not a device and thinking, oh man, what a really nice design. It's just a little bit basic, but I think if you buy the yellow and black version, it looks pretty nice. So in other words, it will not win let's say an award for the best looking portable device. So the design itself is just basic. That's the only thing I can say of it. So that brings us to the functionalities of the device. So let's talk about the joystick itself. What do I think of this? So this is more like this, let's say, wiggly joystick that you can find on some premium device like the Retro Game 350. Some say that it looks a little bit or feels a little bit like Nintendo Switch, but I don't agree on this. But the most important part is, if you're holding the system like this, how does it going to play? I did try some games, some fighting games I think is very important. But playing, so let's say Street Fighter, everything works like a charm. I think the joystick is very responsive, and for playing it for a very long time it feels very comfortable. So if you look at the analog stick, yes, for once I'm a big fan of it, and I really like this design itself, what they're doing with this. You need to get used to it if you're playing adventure games, so that's something you need to take in consideration. Alright, so that brings us through the D-pad itself, and this is something, me as a big fan of the D-pad, I was very disappointed. So the first thing that I noticed with the D-pad itself, besides the form factor, is that when you're touching it, you can hear, and we'll hold it on the camera, you can hear that there is more like a micro switch idea behind it. And I am more like the guy who really loves the D-pad, for example, with the, let's say, LDK, the long travel. That's again something that is more like personal. Somebody loves, let's say, the membrane D-pad. That is a long travel or short travel. Nevertheless, this is basically no travel. It's just instant click. And I know there is a new version out there, and this is going to give us a new D-pad version. But here comes the problem. Even if you're having an other D-pad, playing the games, I did try some Street Fighter again, some fighting games, and I must say it's very responsive and I can do some moves. But again, this is something you need to consideration. You need to get used to the D-pad itself. And again, and overall, I am not a big fan of this clickies D-pad. That is something that I'm, no, not a big fan of it. No, let's put it this way. And you will get some moves out of it. You can play some adventure games, but it's not the best way to go. They messed it up. So that brings us to the next part, the buttons here. I really like the configuration if you look at the 6 buttons, because I play a lot of fighting games. But when it comes to, let's say, the next generation or the newer generation like N64, Sega Dreamcast, we're missing out buttons, people. So this is a big problem, and if you look at the back, there is nothing. Maybe in the future they will make an improved edition, who knows, who tell. But for now, when you're getting this thing, you can't play a lot of games simply because we're missing out buttons. And that's something that I think is a really big of a bummer. But let's talk about what are the quality of the buttons. So normally we're having membrane buttons with a little membrane on the beneath the button itself. But if you look at this version, it looks very nice. If you look at the response, because of the click buttons, I like it. As you can see, it's instant. We don't have any delay or anything, and it works like a charm. So if you look at the D-pad, I hate it. The clickies D-pad, I don't approve of it. But if you choose, let's say, a membrane D-pad in combination with these clickies buttons, that would be great. Alright, so here at the right bottom we're finding the home button. The home button is simply for when pressing this, it goes back to the main menu. And even with some of these video games we can do in quick load, quick save. Keep in mind that doesn't work for everything. They basically messed it up. For example, findable error file, you can save your game, but with MAME you can't. So a little example. We're having this select over here and the start, and here at the right at the bottom we're having a very tiny speaker that I'm not a big fan of. But you can see we can adjust the volume. We're going to get this little bar over here. You can see how loud it goes. Let's put it at the louder settings. I hope you can hear it, but it's missing a little bit of a bass if you compare this with different portable systems. A guy who loves to have 2 speakers in the system. Even if it's on the back, I don't care, just give me 2 speakers. So that's something that I think that's a little bit of a negative part of this device, that only having one speaker. Alright, so on the top of the system we can find an HDMI mini output, AV out, we're having here the CF card or SD card, but when we're going to exit this from the system, now you can see nothing is happening over here, but when you're going to reboot it, you will see that it will not recognize the game. And here we have a micro USB for charging the system. Alright, here we're going to give you a small example. I've pulled out the SD card over here. It will still boot up the firmware itself, but you will see when the thing is booted up, you won't see any games. That means that we can basically make a copy of the SD card if you want to use a big one that I will recommend. So this is what happens when you're pulling it out. Just wanted to show you, and I'll make a separate tutorial if you can add more games to this device. So what is very cool and very convenient that this little Me machine comes with 3.5-inch IPS screen. And as you can see, with this angle, it looks very well. But looking at the specifications of the Pandora Games Mini compared with the Pandora Games 3D, the full main board, you are going to get a mini device, but it has less power. So for example, this thing has a CPU that is a MediaTek MT6580A and quad-core CPU that is running on 1.3 GHz. The GPU is a Mali 400 MP2 and it only having a RAM 512 MB DDR3. So the display itself is in 640 by 480, 3.5-inch IPS. But if you look at this device, it has less power. So the performance for PSP, for example, on Dreamcast, can be a little bit different compared with the full-size main board. Alright, so this is what we're going to get when powering on the system. So here at the left corner you can see if we're having a Wi-Fi connection, the SD is insert. Here we have the battery life and the date. So if you have seen my previous video of the Pandora Games 3D, for example, the menu is exactly the same. So we're having the all list over here, where we have one big messy list. Categorized, you can scroll through the games. As you can see, it's got a very wide range of support, even for PC Engine, Sega Dreamcast. The only thing they messed it up with the arcade, we're having two lists, one with Final Burn Alpha and one for the MAME. And what is very annoying that the Final Burn Alpha has the quick load, quick save, and the MAME doesn't. If you're holding the home button and you hold it for a couple of seconds, you can see we're opening this menu, and here we can adjust some things. But if you look at the setting menu, it's a little bit differently than compared with the full main board of the Pandora box. For example, we're having the handheld settings, of course, because it's in a handheld. We can enter the Wi-Fi. This is purely for going into the Naughty store and getting some updates if they are online. We can add Bluetooth controllers. That's something where I can try out in a different video. Brightness, sound, sleep, and some other things you can change. We're having here the key settings. For example, we have the EO tester, all the things we have with the original Pandora boxes. Enter game settings. What is interesting is that here we have different things, like we can disable it. Let's see what we see here. We have the HD. The menu says it will drain extra battery. Scanline filter, and we can disable it. So there are basically the same option we're having with the original Pandora boxes. And we're going to the Naughty store over here. We can just try to download some new games. Right, so for once the buttons are mapped correctly. Alright, let's see. I prefer the analog stick if you're playing games like this. The D-pad is okay, it's just okay for a friendly game, but you know, I don't like it. Just give me the analog stick. Alright, let's do another round. Ooh, yeah. Don't think so. But as you can see, PlayStation runs like a charm. And I'm getting my ass kicked by Hall. Three-dimensional games will not be a problem. Alright, let's see. There is a delay, as you can see in steering. I don't know what it is, but or the joystick is just very sensitive, but I can tell you there is something going on here. The frame rate itself is not bad at all. No, there isn't delay. So the N64, besides the delay of the joystick, it was pretty smooth. Already showing you doing moves on this thing is playing this game on a totally new way. It is possible, as you can see, but you need to learn to play with the D-pad itself. So an overall, not that recommendation, but as you can see, I can do moves. So happy that we have a very decent joystick. Let's see, I can do a sure you can, something else. Yeah. So all the moves come out very easily with the analog stick. But again, the sound of this game is not bad. It's not bad. It's I can live with it. Alright, so let's grab another game from the main emulator and let's see how the sound is. This is a game with great soundtracks. Well, it goes okay. Sounds good. Sounds good, plays nice.
Three, two, one, go! Three laps to go.
Let's see if I can change my view angle. Oh, yes I can. And I must say, because of this thing is a little bit, let's say, it comes with less power. And compared with the Pandora games 3D, that runs most of the PSP games pretty decent, this is not bad at all. Still have this interference in the sound, but in general, frame rate is not 60 FPS. I can really notice it, but it's pretty playable, and I think for what we're going to pay and what we're going to get, we can't complain. A very great example, of course, here you can see it. Here we're having an FPS dip. Right, let's try some Famicom. Let's see how this runs. Oh, sounds good. Can I skip the shit? Thank you. We have a lot of bootleg Famicom clone systems reviewed here on the channel. So I was expecting with a device like this where we can play some Famicom like it should be. Alright, let's see. Let's play with the D-pad a little bit. Games like this can be played with a D-pad, that's not a big problem. Ow. Alright, so playing with the analog stick on a lot of games is fine, but yeah, the D-pad is just horrible. I'm not going to even freaking try it anymore. I don't know what do you think of this, but it sounds so weird. Whatever. I think it's more something that I hear. No, not hear anything. But again, I really love to play with the analog stick. So happy that. Alright, so let's play some Mega Drive. And we're going to play the Wicked style. And for the people who don't know what is playing Internet Beast with the Wicked style, it's very simple. We're going to play it like this. Let's see, where's the punch button? We're going to punch him in the face, kick him in the balls. Up a jump button. Wolfie, be nice. Beefcake moment. Oh yeah. Now we are Beefcake. We don't need to punch him and kick him in the balls. We can just kick him in the balls. And this guy doesn't have an head, so we need to kick him in the balls. But if you look at the emulation, not bad at all. I think you want to hear from me, what do I think of this? So let's put one thing in front of all the other negative and positive things. So they mess up the D-pad. I'm just keep saying it. And if you mess up the D-pad, you mess up the system. That is my personal opinion about it, because I'm a big fighting game fan and most of these games are unplayable with the D-pad, so I'm forced to use the analog stick. But here comes a positive thing, the analog stick is pretty decent. Yeah, if you want to play with it, you need to get used to it a little bit, because it's more like this very wiggly joystick. But the buttons itself, we're only 6 of them, again, they messed it up. But I must say, the clicky sound to it, I like it. I like it a lot. The save function, it's a great addition, doesn't work for every system. The emulation is pretty decent with many of these systems. So for a device or a Pandora box that they put in a portable device, and even with some, let's say, lesser power, it's not bad at all. I really like the design, but it's more like a personal taste. I really like this brick form. It's not what we call a really in design, but nevertheless, this is what you're going to get. Let me know what you think of this. I want to thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell.